Exciting day for the UFC and the UFC Performance Institute in the sense that we are expanding our resources globally. It was part of our ambition from day one with the UFC Performance Institute to expand upon our resources and build a network of facilities globally, and the first of which will be located in Shanghai, China. We're looking to open the facility in Q2 2019. Construction for the facility is currently underway.
Why was China, you said that you hope there's more of these eventually, I guess, but why was China the right place to start?
Yeah, I think China and larger, to that point, Asia is pretty obviously a important destination for international expansion for the UFC, and I think that it's quite evident that we see the vehicle for growth in terms of developing that region for the UFC and talent to be the UFC Performance Institute.
You said talent development, so I guess give me an idea, because looking at the facility, it looks massive, and we know there's only a handful of fighters on the roster in China. I'm assuming, Europeans and other Asians would enjoy coming there too, but I guess is there more to the facility than there is currently the one here in Vegas?
Yeah, so the UFC Performance Institute in Shanghai will be 3 times the size of what it is in Las Vegas. So in Las Vegas, we're 30,000 square foot center. In Shanghai, it'll be 90,000 square foot. And you're right to the point that we have currently 10 athletes on the UFC roster from China. This facility, the ambition here is to develop talent. So we will be proactively recruiting talent from mainland China and the surrounding region to develop talent and get them to be UFC caliber athletes.
So what would that entail? You look at other sports, other combat sports? I mean, how do you get other athletes and identify people?
I mean, that's one, that's one area we want to look at, Olympic training centers, other combat sports that perhaps, if you think about it, are not going to make it to the Olympics or they've missed the Olympic cycle for whatever reason. You're really good at judo. I've seen that transfer a couple times.
What about the financial costs? I know this is a private company that doesn't typically share numbers, but I'm assuming there's a very big price tag attached here.
Yeah, the capital investment for the facility itself is $13 million, and much like Las Vegas, we'll operate on a multi-million-dollar annual operating budget. And a key important point to mention is the model, again, focused on talent development. Unlike in Las Vegas, where we do not have MMA-specific skill coaching and we don't really intervene when it comes to strategy and development of sport-specific skills, in China we will have a full MMA staff, which we're currently recruiting. So they'll work in conjunction with the full high-performance team like we have in Las Vegas, but in addition to, we'll have an MMA team to support them.
Interesting. So technique coaches that are teaching jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, that sort of thing?
Yeah, obviously here it doesn't work. Everybody's got their own camps. Everybody, you can't coach athletes to potentially fight each other. But if you're more of a skill development phase, we'll work with local gyms throughout China to help them get their athletes better.
Interesting. So if a person came through this program and then they made it to the UFC, let's say, the great thing happens.
That'd be the ultimate goal.
Do they, at that point, are they still working with coaches in the Performance Institute, or at that point do you have to hand them off to somebody?
They could still work out in the Performance Institute, but ideally they'd bring their own coaches in.
Interesting. Well, this is a unique challenge, I guess. You've done a fantastic job here in Vegas. What is this going to entail differently, you think, over there?
Yeah, no, it's obviously hugely exciting for us all involved with the project. Lots of unknowns, but lots of excitement and upsides. And I think that there's a real clarity on the development piece, as we've talked about numerous times, and that's really exciting for us. Obviously, it's quite a transitional crowd we get here in Vegas, with current UFC fighters coming through the doors, experiencing some of our diagnostics or interacting with our expertise. But over there, we're going to really understand some of our systems and how effective they are, because we'll have a cohort of residential fighters that we can work with day in, day out, and really understand as we implement different intervention strategies, different methods of training, different recovery strategies. We can really start clarifying the value of that, and then bring some of that information back to the mothership here in Vegas. So it's really exciting from that perspective.
And it sounds like an aggressive opening plan. Q2. How much are you guys going to be involved? Is staff from here going to have to go over there and help establish? How's that going to work?
Yeah, we're right now we're hard on with recruitment for performance staff and MMA staff to fit out and establish the performance facility over there. The existing APAC region UFC staff will be transitioning into office space in the same facility. So yeah, recruitment is hard on, and then obviously based on the timeline for opening, we need to be around the facility as we start fitting out the facility with equipment, operating procedures. procedures and some of our processes and policies that we implement here in Vegas, we wanted to try and mirror and replicate. So yeah, the guys here, including some of our directors in the respective technical areas as well, will be making a few trips to Shanghai next year.
This is a project that we've been working on, the three of us, and the company as it's grown since the beginning of this year. So we're several months into this in terms of facility design. Again, the facility's been designed for several months. Construction's underway. We're very deep into the recruitment process, so it's not something that we've just come up with and announced an opening in a few months. We've been working on this for nearly a year at this point.
And yeah, it was hard to keep the secret. So you asked me a question earlier, you know, what happens when the fighters do graduate to the UFC, let's say. I can't wait to have that problem. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right, is to get, you know, athletes on the smaller shows in China currently and, you know, give them much better training and nutrition, recovery, things that they don't have access to now, and, you know, see, you know, help them, allow them to reach their full potential.
How if an athlete is interested, I mean, I'm sure you guys are probably already looking at people and eyeballing people, but I mean, if somebody's interested, how do they contact you and say, consider me for this, please?
Well, we'll go through gyms a lot. You know, chances are you're either, like I said, in the Olympic training facility or in a local gym. So we'll go through gyms, do our recruitment from there.
Yeah, that's an important note just to hit on is that when we're going into this new market, we're doing so in conjunction to support the entire MMA community and that infrastructure in China. So we're not looking to take athletes out of their existing gyms. We're looking to support those athletes in those gyms and their coaches. And to your question around, you know, potentially cornering athletes when they get to the roster, again, the goal is to develop athletes within our ecosystem, but still support the local gyms and ultimately have those coaches stay with that athlete throughout their career.
Now, is this just Chinese athletes that you're recruiting, or are we talking about all Asia? Does this include, you know, the Caucasus and Russia and Europe? I mean, who will make up this facility?
Yeah, look, an important part too is that this will be open to current UFC athletes. Where geographically appropriate to use this facility instead, it'll be entirely open to UFC athletes as it is currently in Las Vegas. Our primary focus will be athletes from mainland China, but we will be working with athletes in the surrounding regions throughout APAC.
Are there any little bells and whistles that you got to add here that you learned from this one that you said, you know what, we really need?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hugely exciting for all of our staff. We've learned a lot in opening the facility here in Vegas, and essentially what we've been able to do is take the best bits plus our new innovative pieces and drop them into Shanghai. So the Vegas staff are pretty envious of what we've created here, or what we'll be creating in Shanghai. A lot of the technology capabilities are integral to our operations and the way we go about performance services. So they'll be replicated and mirrored, and again, that's going to aggregate more data that we can put into our databases and continue to learn about the sport of MMA and peel back some of those layers to gain more understanding. But yeah, there's some new tweaks. You know, we have an endless flow pool in terms of swimming capabilities in the facility. We've got a large indoor field turf area, which will, you know, we can talk about the competition structure and how we're going to essentially evaluate fighters moving forwards. But yeah, there's lots of pieces in there, you know, that you see here in Vegas, but just on a larger, grander scale.
I think the most important difference, though, to be honest, and look, again, to Duncan's point, we're all pretty envious in what we're building in Shanghai. It's 3 times the size, is the difference in staff services. Again, I don't think that this should be undervalued in the sense that this would be the first time an integrated MMA performance and high performance team will work together under one facility with one ambition. So a full MMA staffing structure, working in conjunction with performance nutritionists, physical therapists, strength and conditioning coaches. It's never been done before in our sport and really in combat sports. So, I mean, I think that is the clear difference in model and approach, that it's all said and done, we'll have a support team of nearly 20 staff working to develop these athletes.
Is there anything you can liken that to? Because as you said, we've never seen this in MMA. I know when you guys built this place, you know, there were visits made all over the world to other training centers, teams, professional sports. I mean, is there anything like this in other sports that you could liken this to?
I mean, Duncan, I'll defer to you, but I'd imagine Olympic training centers are probably the most applicable to what we're building here.
Yeah, very, very much so. I think that's the similar model that it reflects is the Olympic centers where you know, the sports are employing technical coaches, but also have the finances and funding to employ support services as well. So, you know, some of those Olympic programs are funded through government and you know, state-funded programs. So often the finances are a little bit different. Here, as a private company, we can engage, with quite a substantial investment in making sure that support team is robust enough to accommodate the 30 to 50 residential fighters that we're looking to support on a day-to-day basis.
Do you think you'd see fighters that aren't yet in MMA that are competing in other sports concurrently, like maybe they're doing Taekwondo or maybe they're doing something? Is that what you think you'll end up seeing in here?
I'd like to, yeah. Absolutely, why not?
Yeah, that talent transfer again we'll have the capability. It's a talent pathway, right? So wherever they come from, and with Forrest's leadership and the MMA coaches that'll be embedded in the facility, they're going to be able to evaluate people coming to the facility, and we'll have a evaluation process as part of it. We're looking to build out certain combine type strategies moving forwards. So that we can roll that out on a grander scale globally, but that will be launched in conjunction with the Shanghai facility as well. So there's many pieces where we can pull athletes in talent transfer from other combat sports or other sports that can potentially fight.
So that's interesting. Would that mean like using the metrics that you already have in data and evaluating these people in a combine and saying, you fit the mold of a UFC athlete based on your metrics here?
Yeah, to some extent. It's only half the deal. The technical, tactical piece is essential, crucial. But yeah, that's going to be a complementary piece for sure.
Think about guys like OSP and Dominic Reyes, really good college football players.
Eric Anders, yeah.
Yeah, Eric Anders. Never really experienced the sport too much before their 20s. And they were able to transfer and be, all three of them relatively successful in a short amount of time. I think that'll happen more in China because the popularity of the sport, it's just now becoming accepted. This is kind of, I see it as a jumping off point in China. It feels over there for MMA like it did here 2005 and 6. And I think give us a couple of years, more exposure to the sport. There'll be more local gyms, more fighters, more good athletes will consider that a viable option. So as the sport grows in China, just like here where you're seeing wrestlers that are just, maybe a step way too far down to actually compete in the Olympics, so I'm going to do that,
So I guess, you said under your leadership, so are you going to be pretty involved in this facility as well? I know the time change and the distance makes it tough, but are they kind of operating on an island out there, or you guys feel like you're going to be operating with them?
We definitely want to guide them, and I've been able to surround myself with a good team and set up some good training structures, for every discipline and then putting them together. So it's a lot of what I've figured out actually, not even in my own career, but talking to athletes here the last year. It's funny, the sport changes quickly, so we want to make sure that the team we have over there and the program and periodization that we put in place fits, today's modern athlete and is, as robust and dynamic as the sport is today.
Yeah, the team we're putting in place there will have obviously some autonomy in terms of day-to-day and week-to-week operations of that facility. But Duncan, I think to your earlier point, though, we are recruiting to build upon the UFC Performance Institute and our resources and staff. And in several months' time, we'll have the UFCPI will have a staff of 30 plus that are working with athletes now all over the world across multiple disciplines, and then we'll just fill into our larger ecosystem.
That's awesome. This is a huge step, huge news.
Yeah.
Not to overlook this, but is this possible in other parts of the world, I should say, at some point as well?
Yeah, as I said at the start, from day one,
from one in like every city.
From conception of Las Vegas, it was always our understanding and belief and ambition to have a global network of UFC Performance Institutes to support athletes currently on the roster, but I think more importantly, and as you're seeing in Shanghai, China, to develop talent. And through the model and philosophies and methodologies that we've built here and we're continuing to build.
Pretty cool. Ultimately, an investment in the future of the sport.
Yep, exactly that.